Concerning the Gentiles. We read in Acts 21 verse 25 that James says to Paul, "But concerning the Gentiles who believe, we have written and decided that they should observe no such thing except that they should keep themselves from things offered to idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality." This statement was made in response to rumors that Paul was persuading the Jewish believers to forsake the law of Moses. In James' response, it is clear that he still upheld the decision reached at the Council of Jerusalem as recorded in Acts 15. At that council, it was determined that Gentile believers were not required to observe the ceremonial or customary laws of the Jews in order to be followers of Christ. Instead, they were instructed only to abstain from things offered to idols, from consuming blood and things strangled, and from sexual immorality. A few years had passed between the Jerusalem counseling and James instructing to Paul in Acts 21. If the apostles had intended to later require Gentile believers to observe the Sabbath and other Jewish rituals, this would have been an ideal moment for James to clarify such a change. Yet he does not do so. Rather, he reaffirms the earlier decisions. For this reason, some within the Hebrews root or Torah observer movements claimed that this passage should not be in Scripture and was either corrupted or altered from the original text. They argue that James could not have said these things to Paul because doing so would contradict God's law. Part of this argument, they also claim that the New Testament was originally written in Hebrew rather than Greek. However, there is no credible historical evidence to support these assertions. First, the apostles frequently quoted from the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, rather than from a purely Hebrew textual tradition. In many cases, New Testament quotations align more closely with the Septuagint than with the later Masoretic texts. This strongly suggests that the Greek was the primary language of composition and circulation for the New Testament writings. Furthermore, there are no surviving ancient manuscripts, textual tradition, or patristic testimonies indicating that Acts was originally written in Hebrew, nor is there any manuscript evidence that Acts 21 verse 25 was inserted or altered at a later stage. Therefore, the claim that this passage was corrupted lacked scholarly foundation. It is not supported by textual criticism, manuscript evidence, or early church history. Rather, it appears to be an ideological assertion driven by theological presuppositions by the Torah observers. Like and subscribe for more 2-minute biblical rebuttals.